Today, we're digging into something I'm calling the gravity of AI. We're going to look at how a surprisingly short 8-minute interview with NVIDIA's Jensen Huang actually unpacks a massive shift that could very well define the future of your company.
So let's just get right to it. Here's the question that's on everyone's mind, the one that's probably keeping leaders up at night. Is this whole AI boom a real fundamental leap in productivity, or is it just another capital-fueled tech bubble? It's a critical question because getting the answer wrong could be, well, catastrophic.
You'd think the answer would be buried in some 1,000-page market report. But it's not. It's actually hiding in plain sight, in this brief interview with Jensen Huang. Now, on the surface, it sounds like just another market update. But if you listen really closely, what you're actually hearing is a blueprint for a completely new kind of organization.
And listen, the stakes here are incredibly high. This isn't just about adopting a new tool. The insights we're about to unpack could literally be the difference between leading a company that's accelerating into the future and being stuck in one that's being dragged down, kicking and screaming by its own outdated structure.
All right, so first up, the real warning. We have to reframe this whole conversation. This isn't really about tech. It's about a fundamental shift in the very physics of how a company operates. See, the real bombshell in Huang's interview wasn't about chips or stock prices. It was this. The very definition of what makes a company capable, what makes it competitive, is being rewritten from the ground up by AI.
And here's the real danger. It's not that you're ignoring AI, it's that your organization is already in the middle of this new territory, this new gravity field, but you're still trying to find your way using old maps. And guess what? Those maps are completely useless now.
Okay, so that's the big picture warning. Now let's get practical. Let's talk about what happens when software gets a brain. Because, spoiler alert, the job roles that we've known and relied on for decades, they just break. Huang made this one distinction that is so important, but I think a lot of people just glossed right over it. For our entire careers, software has been a tool. It's something that we as humans use. Now, for the first time ever, software is starting to use tools itself. And that's not just some cool tech update. That is a massive, flashing alarm bell for every single organization out there. Just think about what that really means for management. The old job was about managing people who were experts at using specific tools. The new job? It's about managing systems of intelligent agents that are using those tools for you. The focus has to shift dramatically from the person to the system. So, here's a bit of a provocative thought for you. One of the most overrated, least valuable skills in the very near future is going to be simply saying, "Oh yeah, I know how to use AI." And why is that? Because very soon, the AI will know how to use itself. That proficiency will just be table stakes.
So if that's the overrated skill, what's the one that's actually going to be scarce and valuable? Well, let's call it the organizational architect. This is the person who can take a big, messy, vague business problem and break it down into structured tasks that an AI can actually execute. They define the context, they set the boundaries, and, this is the most important part, they take full responsibility for the final business outcome, not just for the process of using the tool. Now for our third big shift, the nonlinear advantage. And this is a huge mental hurdle for a lot of companies. Investing in AI is absolutely not like buying more laptops for your team. The returns aren't linear, they are exponential. This quote from the interview is basically the new math for corporate growth. If they can have twice the computing power, their revenue will grow 4 times. Just let that sink in for a second. We are not talking about a 10 or 20% return. We are talking about quadratic growth. The fundamental rules of the game have changed. This requires a massive mental shift in how we think about IT. For decades, IT spending was seen as a cost center, right? A depreciating asset you needed for operations. In the AI era, computing power becomes a nonlinear amplifier. It's an asset that actually preserves its value. And its function isn't just operations, it's a decision accelerator for your entire organization. So why aren't more companies seeing these incredible results? Well, here's the common mistake. Most organizations are just bolting AI onto their old linear structure. They buy the fancy tools, they run the pilots, but they don't change the underlying operating model. And then they're shocked when their growth is still flat. Next, let's talk about timing, because this is a marathon, not a sprint. Building the kind of AI infrastructure you need isn't something you can just check off your to-do list in a single quarter.
Huang actually projects that this entire infrastructure build-out is going to be a 7 to 8 year cycle. So if you're just starting now, you might only be at the midpoint by 2028. We have to get our heads around this. This is a full organizational rebuild, not a short-term tech upgrade. It requires strategic patience.
And trying to rush this with an old structure is just a recipe for absolute disaster. The metaphor here is perfect. It's like putting a high-speed train engine on an old horse-drawn carriage. It's not going to make you faster, it's just going to make you more unstable, more chaotic, and ultimately a lot more dangerous.
This brings us to the evolution of leadership itself. Point 5 is the new commander role. The manager's job description is fundamentally changing from managing people to orchestrating these complex, intelligent systems.
To really get this, we need to understand the concept of profitable tokens. This marks a historic shift. I mean, for the first time, intelligence itself is no longer just a human trait. It's become a scalable digital product that can be mass-produced, packaged, and sold. So the manager of the future, this commander, has to be an expert at orchestrating three very different resources in harmony. You've got the strategic insight of your human talent, the scalable execution of intelligent agents, and the raw horsepower of computing power. Success is going to depend on blending these three seamlessly.
Okay, let's bring this all together. Our final point is actually quite simple. Don't fight gravity. This shift isn't optional. It isn't something you can opt out of. Adaptation is inevitable, and the only real choice you have is when and how you decide to do it.
The final warning is pretty stark. In the old world, being slow might have been a disadvantage you could overcome. In the era of AI-driven nonlinear growth, being slow isn't a handicap anymore. It's an elimination condition. The gap between the fast and the slow will grow exponentially until the slow are no longer even in the race. And that leaves us with one critical question to reflect on. This new organizational gravity is already here. It's pulling everything in a new direction. The only question that really matters for you and your company is this: have you shifted gears yet?